I was sitting at the long dining table in my parents' house on Christmas Eve, trying to enjoy the dinner, when my brother started again. His name is Ryan. He's 2 years older than me and has always had this habit of putting me down whenever we're in the same room. Tonight was no different. We were all sitting together, me, my husband Daniel, my parents, Ryan, and his wife. The table was full of food, but the atmosphere was already tense because Ryan had been in a bad mood since the evening started. He looked at me and smirked. "So, how's that little online business of yours going, Ava?" he asked loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Still selling those handmade candles and soap? Must be nice, playing house while the rest of us actually work real jobs." I forced a small smile. "It's doing well, Ryan. Thanks for asking." Come on, be honest. You're basically a housewife who sometimes sells stuff on Instagram. Daniel must be the one actually paying the bills, right? Daniel, my husband, squeezed my hand under the table. I looked at him and he gave me a small, knowing shake of his head. Not yet. I took a deep breath and stayed quiet. Ryan wasn't done. He turned to my parents and said, I still don't understand why Ava dropped out of law school. She could have been something. Instead, she married early, had kids, and now she's playing entrepreneur with her little hobby business. It's kind of sad, honestly." My mother laughed lightly, like it was a joke. My father didn't say anything. He never did when Ryan spoke like this. I felt my face getting hot. I had 2 children, a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl. I had built a small but successful online business selling organic skincare products. It wasn't a billion-dollar company, but it was mine. I was proud of it. But in my family's eyes, it was nothing compared to Ryan's big corporate job. Ryan continued, now talking about my husband. "And Daniel, man, you're a good guy, but don't you ever get tired of being the only one bringing real money home? Ava's out here playing boss lady with her little website while you're the one carrying the family." Daniel stayed calm. He just looked at Ryan and said quietly, "I'm proud of my wife. She works hard." Ryan rolled his eyes and laughed. "Whatever helps you sleep at night, bro." The whole dinner continued like this. Ryan kept making snide remarks about my clothes, my career, my children's school, and even the way I raised them. Every time I tried to speak, he would cut me off or make a joke at my expense. I was gripping my fork so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I was one comment away from exploding. Then Daniel leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Not yet." I looked at him. He gave me a small, knowing smile and squeezed my hand again under the table. I forced myself to stay quiet. After dinner, everyone moved to the living room. Ryan was in a good mood now because he had successfully made me look small in front of the whole family. He sat back on the sofa, drink in hand, and started bragging. He said loudly, "I just closed a massive deal last week. Biggest one of my career. We're talking 7 figures. The company is expanding because of me. Dad, you should be proud. At least one of your kids is actually doing something worthwhile." My father smiled proudly. My mother looked at me with that familiar, disappointed expression, as if to say, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I stood up. "I need some air," I said quietly. I walked out of the living room and went into the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I had reached my limit. I took out my phone and made one call. The person on the other end picked up after 2 rings. "It's time," I said. That was all I said. I hung up. Then I walked back into the living room and sat down calmly. Ryan was still talking about his huge deal, laughing and soaking in all the attention. Exactly 47 seconds later, his phone started ringing. He looked at the screen and frowned. "It's work," he muttered. "They know not to call me on Christmas Eve." He answered the call. "Hello?" Whatever the person on the other end said made the color drain from Ryan's face. His smile disappeared completely. He stood up slowly, his hand tightening around the phone. "What do you mean the deal fell through?" he asked, his voice suddenly low. "That's not possible. We signed everything last week." He went completely pale. "Hold on. What? The investor pulled out? But why?" He looked around the room, his eyes wide with panic. Everyone was now staring at him. Ryan's voice cracked as he spoke into the phone. "Wait, what? Say that again." He slowly lowered the phone from his ear and stared at me. His face had gone completely white. Wait, he stammered, looking directly at me. "What did you do?" I looked at my brother calmly and replied, "Nothing you didn't deserve." The entire living room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Ryan was still holding his phone, staring at me with wide eyes. His face had gone completely pale. The confident, arrogant smile he had been wearing all evening had vanished. "What did you do?" he asked again, his voice cracking. I looked at him calmly and replied, "I did what you've been doing to me for years. I exposed the truth." He took a step back, still clutching his phone. On the other end of the call, someone was still speaking. Ryan slowly raised the phone back to his ear. "What do you mean the investor pulled out?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "We had a signed agreement." "No, that's not possible. I have the documents right here." Whatever the person on the phone said next made Ryan's knees weak. He sat down heavily on the sofa, looking like the air had been knocked out of him. My mother looked between us, confused. "Ryan, what's going on? Who is that on the phone?" Ryan didn't answer her. He was too busy listening to whatever was being said on the call. His hands were visibly shaking now. I stood up slowly and looked at my family. Since Ryan loves talking so much about his huge deal, I think everyone here deserves to know the truth. That deal he's been bragging about all evening, it's fake. Gasps echoed across the room. Ryan's head snapped up. "Shut up, Ava!" But I didn't stop. Ryan has been faking business deals for the past 2 years. He creates fake contracts, shows them to investors, takes their money as advances, and then disappears when things get serious. This latest deal, he was about to scam a major investor out of $1.8 million. My father stood up angrily. "Ava, stop lying. How dare you accuse your brother like this in front of everyone?" I looked at my father coldly. "I'm not lying, and I have proof." I took out my phone and played a recording. It was Ryan's voice speaking to one of his associates about how he was going to milk this investor dry and then ghost him like the last two. The room went completely silent as the recording played. When it finished, everyone was staring at Ryan. My mother looked horrified. "Ryan, is this true?" Ryan's face was now red with anger and panic. He stood up and pointed at me. "You bitch! You recorded me? You set me up!" I looked at him without any emotion. "No, Ryan, you set yourself up. I just collected the evidence while you were busy mocking me, my husband, and my children all these years." My husband, Daniel, finally spoke. His voice was calm but firm. "Ryan, the investee you were trying to scam, he's a close business associate of mine. When Ava told me what you were planning, I made sure he knew the truth before signing anything. That's why the deal fell through tonight." Ryan looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. My father turned to me, his face red with rage. "You planned this? You destroyed your own brother's career on Christmas Eve?" I looked at my father. "No, Dad. I protected myself and my family. Ryan has been humiliating me for years in front of all of you, and none of you ever stopped him, not once. You all just laughed along with him. So tonight, I decided it was time he faced some consequences." My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Ava, how could you do this to your own brother?" I looked at her and replied, "The same way he's been doing it to me for years. Only difference is I actually have proof." Ryan suddenly stood up and lunged toward me, but Daniel quickly stepped in front of me. "Don't even think about it," Daniel warned him. Ryan was breathing heavily, his eyes filled with hatred. "You're gonna pay for this," he spat at me. I looked at him and smiled coldly. "I already did, for years. Now it's your turn." At that moment, Two of the men in suits who had come with my husband stepped forward. "Ryan Thompson," one of them said, "we're from the Securities and Exchange Commission. We need you to come with us for questioning regarding multiple fraudulent business deals." Ryan's face went completely white. My mother started crying and screaming, "No, you can't take him. This is a family matter." But no one was listening to her anymore. As the officers escorted Ryan out of the house, he looked back at me one last time. All his arrogance was gone. He looked scared. I didn't feel sorry for him because for years he made me feel small, worthless, and stupid in front of the same family. He mocked my career, my marriage, and my children without any remorse. And every single time, my parents either stayed silent or laughed along with him. Tonight, I finally gave him a taste of his own medicine. After Ryan was taken away, the remaining guests slowly started leaving. My parents didn't say another word to me. They just sat on the sofa in shock. Before I left with Daniel, I turned to my parents one last time. "I'm done," I said quietly. "I'm done trying to be part of this family. From now on, don't call me, don't message me, and stay away from my children." My mother looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Ava, please." But I had already made up my mind. Some relationships are too toxic to save, and sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away after making sure they can never hurt you again.